To turn the floor to Mr. Dan Lothrop of RomaniaOne.
So to prove that I'm not a government official and a businessman, I showed up with a PowerPoint presentation. And I am a member of civil society, and what I want to talk about is civil society, and I thank President Johannes and his team for giving me the opportunity to be part of the people dialogue at this event. I want to talk about three things shortly: what I believe, what I'm committed to, and a vision for the people of Romania. And let me start with what I believe. I believe that Romanians are winners, real winners. And I think the facts support that. The first time I presented to the Romanian-American caucus in the House of Representatives, there were 11 congressmen. And into the room walked Congressman Brad Wenstrup, who spent a year and a half serving with Romanians in Iraq. And he brought me this picture. It's a picture of Romanians teaching Americans in a dining hall how to do a dance at Christmas. And Brad gave me this picture of him with two Romanians. And he said something profound. He said, if you want to know a culture, live with them in the desert for a year. 2 years. See what happens when you've got an MRAP and they don't, and you face the same enemy in Kandahar. And I heard time and time again, Romanians are not only courageous, but they're trustworthy. This is an interesting guy who confirms it. Seton Watson was the British official most involved with the repartitioning of Eastern Europe after World War I. He was former British intelligence officer. In 1916, he formed a magazine based in Budapest called The New Europe. Seton Watson had published a lot. He spoke Hungarian, Croat, and Czech. He didn't speak Romanian. But he said this: of the 10 countries that were moving out into their own in 1919, when democracy is accomplished, the great energies and qualities of the Romanian people, perhaps the most talented in this part of Europe, will place Romanians in an admirable position. Let me give you 3 quotes. General Stanley McChrystal, the head of all American forces in Afghanistan: Romanians are the most trustworthy, capable soldiers I've ever served with. Safra Katz, the CEO of Oracle, when she was here, says Romanians aren't here for cheap labor. We're here because Romanians are the most creative problem solvers in Europe. And many, many foreign expatriates had the same reaction that James Robinson, the author of the New York Times bestseller, Why Nation Fail. I've never met a young generation so eager to learn. Romanians are, relative to my country and many of the countries in Western Europe, highly educated, energetic, creative, resilient, and humble. Sometimes humble isn't good because you don't speak up, and other times humble is great because you listen instead of talk. Let me tell you the other thing that I believe. I believe that despite all the flaws in democracy, and as Winston Churchill said, it's deeply flawed, it's just so much better than the next better thing. Democracy works. This is a list of the 20 countries in the world, starting from Belgium on up, which looks at the median household income. This isn't an average that throws in the billions that the top make, but it says let's get rid of the top 49%, let's get rid of the bottom 49%, and say what does the average household make? And if you look at the countries right here that are the top 20 in the world for median household incomes, they're in the red. You can see those that are in the top 25 according to the Strong Democracy by the Global Democracy Rankings, and you can see a high correlation with low corruption. So the talk about democratic institutions and corruption is not a political, it's not a theoretical, it's about people's prosperity. And I think there's two countries worth noting on this list, one of which I have a lot of experience in. The first is South Korea. In 1970, South Koreans made 1/10 of what Romanians made. 1/10 of what Romanians made. Today, South Koreans make 6 times what Romanians made. South Koreans were a people that had never had their own chance, were always occupied by the Chinese, the Russians, and the Japanese. And the change in South Korea didn't come in 1948 when they got the right to vote. It didn't come when the war ended. It didn't come in 1983, 84, and 5 when I was there, where South Koreans had no hope and they started their businesses in California and Tokyo. It came in 1987 when South Koreans demanded election reform. And for the next decade, the government of South Korea opened to new political parties, and it opened to the thought that we're not here to serve the oligarchs of South Korea. We're here to make this the easiest place for a South Korean to pursue their dream, whether it's in movie, art, education, or business. And that's the time when South Korea stopped becoming a place for cheap labor and became a place for prosperous South Koreans. The other country that I think is worth noticing on here is Singapore, particularly with this week with Lee Kuan Yew's funeral. There's been a lot of talk about what happened in Singapore. But the most consistent thing is that Mr. Lee made South Singapore a country of simple, clear, and predictable laws. Simple, clear, and predictable laws, and made it the easiest place in the world to start a business. I think we can learn something from that here in Romania. Secondly, a couple things on commitment. For those of you who wonder why am I here, this is my 94th visit to Romania. I spent my first 25 visits involved with a couple Romanians in this room in building a medical clinic and a school. So I've seen the education system and the healthcare system in Romania. Now it ranks last in the European Union, ranks below many of the former countries of Yugoslavia. And with a group of 26 Americans, mostly CEOs of technology companies who thought we were looking at the most beautiful land in Europe, we began to buy a lot of land in national parks and ask the questions that investor asks. What are the laws here? Where do my property taxes go? And I have a problem, who is my member of parliament? And how are they going to advocate for me? How are they going to serve me? We're the largest taxpayers here. The other thing that I'm committed to is I'm committed to sharing this learning experience that I've had with Romania, with Americans, the new generation of leaders in my country, who are leading. It's very easy in months to break a form of government. It's very easy to form a state with military and security. You can do that in a day or an hour. What is hard is to build a democratic nation. It's at least 4 decades or 5 decades. And that if we look at what we did in Germany, and I had the benefit of growing up in Frankfurt, West Germany, America's investment in military was significant, but equal was our investment in economic development, and equal was our investment in political development. And so to our leaders in Congress right now, I say the litmus test on where America is going to commit its money, where it's going to commit the Americans' taxpayers' money, are in countries where the citizens want it more than Americans. And that where citizens are coming to understand that in a democracy requires more of its citizens than any form of government. That's the problem with democracy. We as citizens get back what we put into it. But Romania is a country that America's investment, its case for democracy, can become the next South Korea. And you know, as Congressman Turner mentioned my name this morning, he and I get together every New Year's. We get together in between. Last week I was with a number of members of the Romanian caucus who are coming here May 1st. They're eager to learn. The people who sit in our government were not part of the generation of nation builders post-World War II. And I'm committed to doing everything I can to tell your story in Washington, D.C. And lastly, at RomaniaOne, we're committed to educating and inspiring Romanian citizens through the use of technology, to telling them, quit criticizing, quit complaining. It's time to take actions, thoughtful actions in groups of people. And one example I want to put up here is if you go to our website, romaniaone.org, the students at Babeș Bolyai formed a club and created a political map of Romania. You have to go to this, I don't have the website up here because I wasn't sure of it. I didn't want it, the technology blip. The core of the website is that you can look at a map of the country, you can see where you live, you can click on it, you can find your colegiu, you can find your senator, you can find your deputy. You can find their contact information if they make it available, you can find out what percentage of the vote they got, and you can find out if they live there or if they've ever lived there. And then the students decided, well, this is cool, now people can quit complaining, they can actually talk to their representatives. The other thing they did is they said, let's just take all of these colegius and color them red or green. Green is good, red is bad, on 3 criteria. Do they actually live in this district, or have they ever lived here? Second, did they get more than 25% of the vote? Because as you know, there are many members who sit in the House of Deputies who got less than 5% of the vote. And this is the one that I like the most, which is, this is red. If the representative does not have an office with office hours in the district and an email. The overwhelming majority of deputies in this country do not have an office with office hours. You know, as you may know from England, where America kind of copied a lot of the English model, there's 2 chambers in a parliament, an upper chamber, which is essentially the rich people who don't want to change, the House of Lords, and a lower chamber, which is the House of Commons, which are the people who advocate for the citizens. They are the representatives of the citizens. If you go into an MP's office in England, you will find 4 or 5 caseworkers there, ready to hear your case. Electricity that's not working in your building. An infrastructure project that's destroying your home. Whatever it is, you know, the members of the Chambers of Deputies are the representatives of the people they represent. So this is an example of what we're doing and the kind of things that we want to help Romanians educate and inspire and give people the tool to invest in their country, in their democracy. Let me close here with a couple of things about a vision for Romania. Romanians are very entrepreneurial, like Americans. When the policies of this country are simple, clear, and predictable, and can have a logical Romanian, intelligent, reasonable Romanian say, it's easier for me to start my business, my art studio, to teach, to set up a school. It's easier to do it in Romania than anywhere in Europe. This economy will grow at 5% a year for 10 years. We should be growing at 5% a 10 year. But the litmus test is, are we making this the easiest place in Europe for our people to live and do whatever God created them to do with their lives? The second vision I have for Romania is that we live in a world where clean air, clean water, and clean soil is growing scarcer and scarcer and scarcer. Romania is one of the greenest places in the world. If we invested in decent train network in this country, a modern train network, we would see land prices in this country go from 50 cents a euro to 3 euros a square meter, 50 cents a square meter to 3 to 5. I mean, this land that we have is a treasure. A 10 billion euro investment in train infrastructure so that you have access to this amazing land. You know, with simple, clear laws. We will have like the greatest economic dividend we could imagine, where anyone who owns land in this country has part of a 200 or 300 billion euro windfall. And the last part of a vision is Romanians. Believe it or not, Romanians are a bright light of hope for what I think is the greatest human rights issue of our time, which is corruption. It is because of corruption that governments can't feed their poor, they can't educate their young, and they can't provide decent health care. Sadly, I have friends that died where $5,000 of generic medicine would have saved their life, but the answer is we don't have any money. When we look at a corruption scandal of 60 million euro, I see 10,000 leukemia cancer patients who died because they couldn't get the medicine. And the beauty, the irony of the Romanian DNA effort, and I know it's messy on the inside, but on the outside, is the people who were stereotyped as corrupt were the first to have the courage to fight it. And the example that Romania has, it inspires me as an American to get involved with Citizen United, a horrible law, which is messing up money in politics. It inspires people in Barcelona, I've spoken to them, that said, we need a DNA in Spain. And so, thank you for the inspiration. I'm going to go back and fight Citizens United. And again, thank you to President Johannes for allowing me to participate in this and be part of the people dialogue.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lothrop, for your truly inspiring talk.